Good morning and thank you for joining us on Africa This Morning. My name is Beryl Oro. It is the 19th of February 2014. Let's start the day with a look at the headlines.
South Sudan conflict. South Sudanese rebels attack the Upper Nile state as the first fighting in a provincial state since the signing of the ceasefire. Kenya governor impeachment. Senate Finance Committee adjourns proceeding after failure to acquire quorum. Ethiopian Airline hijacking. Co-pilot of Ethiopian Airline plane hijacked the plane and forcibly landed in Geneva.
The co-pilot of an Ethiopian Airlines plane flying from Addis Ababa to Rome has been arrested after hijacking the aircraft and flying it to Switzerland.
Ethiopia's government on Monday named the co-pilot of an Ethiopian Airlines flight who hijacked his aircraft, describing him as medically sane and saying the incident beggars belief. Information Minister Redwan Hussein named the hijacker as 31-year-old Helmehiddin Abera Tagnin and said he had been working for the national carrier for 5 years and had no criminal record.
The plane was now to be allegedly hijacked by the co-pilot, who is named Helmehiddin Abera Tagnin. He's 31 years old. He's been serving for the airlines for the last 5 years.
The minister said the passengers included 139 Italians, 11 Americans, 10 Ethiopians, as well as nationals from Nigeria, Romania, France, Ireland, Germany, and other countries.
As to what forced him to hijack his own plane is still beggars belief and description. So we still wait until the investigation is concluded so that we will know what forced him. Otherwise, any political, social, or economic reason would not make sense to hijack your own plane and be a criminal.
Flight 702 was scheduled to leave Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa at 21:30 GMT and arrive in Rome at 4:40 local time. But at some point during the flight, the co-pilot locked his colleague out of the cockpit and took over the plane. He radioed Geneva to request permission for an emergency fueling before setting off an alarm indicating that the plane had been hijacked. Passengers have said he threatened to crash the plane. 2 Italian fighter jets and then French jets were scrambled to escort the plane as it crossed Europe. The Boeing 767-300 eventually made its unscheduled landing at 6 a.m. local time. The airline said all 202 passengers and crew were safe. Geneva Airport was closed for a time but has since been reopened.
The French social-political scientist Dr. Yves Mopo, who is testifying against Deputy President William Ruto at the International Criminal Court, has been warned against quoting other researchers. The presiding judge, Eboy Osuji, told the witness that the court was not interested in the work of other researchers.
The International Criminal Court is now in session. L'audience de la Cour pénale internationale est ouverte.
The 11th prosecution witness in the case against Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Arap Sang had told the International Criminal Court that they could refer to a research by another author on how Ruto had risen to be the main Kalenjin politician, but the judge cautioned him against referring to other researchers.
William Samoei Ruto and Joshua Arap Sang.
Ruto's lawyer David Hooper had also objected to the witness' constant reference to another researcher's work in his testimony.
Thank you very much. Appearances, please.
The witness told the court that Ruto replaced former President Daniel Arap Moi as the leader of the Kalenjin following the 2002 elections and 2005 referendum, and in 2006 he was declared the Kalenjin spokesman.
Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honours. Mr. Ruto is represented by Mr. David Hooper.
Maupau said that Ruto managed to gain popularity because he has charisma and knew how to run a campaign, making him an asset to any political party.
The power struggles between senators and governors in Kenya continue days after the Senate passed a motion to impeach a governor accused of corruption. In what could be construed as open defiance, only 2 governors appeared before the Senate Finance Committee, which has been reviewing reports by the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget on the use of public funds. Hezbollah Mugambi has the details.
The quorum we have confirmed from your office is a third.
Since devolution was introduced following the implementation of the new constitution, there has been a power struggle between the governors and senators, a duel that was further intensified by last week's impeachment of Embu Governor Nyaga Wambora.
We wanted to discuss the summaries and observations of the controller as regards all the counties on the final pages of that report. But the Finance Committee did not turn up in 2 of the meetings. So we did 2 things. One is to invite the members of the committees individually. You know, when you issue summons, you issue them individually to the specific members of that committee. You don't do it jointly. This is why we did all the 10.
Only 2 of the 10 members belonging to the Governor's Council Committee on Finance appeared before the Senate to answer questions raised by the Control of Budget.
We then do not have a quorum from your side to transact business on behalf of the Finance Committee of your Council of Governors.
A clear indication that the row between the Senate and the governors is far from over.
Council of Governors has sought, in conclusion, advisory opinion of the Supreme Court of Kenya. The reference has been filed. We should give the court opportunity to ventilate these issues. They have also sought the opinion of CIC and so forth. Therefore, he requests that the Senate suspends the summoning pending the clarification. This is basically the letter from the chairman in which he has argued at length on why he thinks the governors should not appear before the committees of the House.
The Finance Committee questions Kitui Governor Julius Malombe, who is a member of the committee. Malombe is one of the 9 governors summoned by the Senate over alleged mismanagement of the county funds. The Control of Budget is concerned that the counties are not setting aside funds for development.
You spent only 222 million during that period. And it says, and only 0.6% on development. Would you want to explain that, please?
During that period, you could not spend on development, because to implement a development project, you needed to procure. If you don't procure, of course, what happened in Embu will be cited against you.
The amount of money used for travel and conferences was also a concern.
We did not travel. I did not travel. The CECs did not travel outside the country, or even the CECs, we trained them in Kitui.
Those classifications are the ones which, like use of goods and services, it is a summary of the transportation cost, the training cost, the hospitality, domestic and travel and subsistence. So in a nutshell, it's just a summarized expense, not specifically relating to travel or hospitality within the county.
The Control of Budget also wants to know why counties are collecting less revenue than the defunct county councils.
There was a bit of resistance by the departments of the devolved units to see themselves as a part and parcel of the county governments. Because some kept on reporting at the headquarters and saying they have nothing in writing from their parent ministries to indicate they are now part of the county governments.
As the Senate was grilling Malombe, a section of governors were meeting in Nairobi to discuss how to deal with the current situation.
Kenya's opposition party, the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, has cautioned the national government against using the challenges facing the county governments to frustrate devolution. The party also questioned President Uhuru Kenyatta's government's commitment to fight against corruption.
Addressing the press after a parliamentary group meeting in Nairobi, the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy leadership warned the national government against exploiting the hardships facing the county governments to kill devolution. They want President Uhuru Kenyatta to deal with high-level corruption allegations facing his government as it pushes for good governance in the counties.
We demand clear and categorical answers on the procurement of the standard gauge railway and the names behind the funds picked, even as we urge our governors to cooperate with the Senate. While we empathize that governors cooperate with the Senate, the national government must keep off the issue. We demand that the government comes clean on the laptops project and answers all the questions being raised by the Parliamentary Committee on Education before proceeding with the project.
The party is also planning to amend the Commissions of Inquiry Act to remove the powers of forming commissions from the executive, since the president has this far declined to form a commission of inquiry to investigate the Westgate Mall terror attack.
We remain very concerned by the deteriorating insecurity, the climax of which has been the invasion of the mosque in Mombasa recently. We condemn it once again. But we also note that the government has refused to form a commission of inquiry into the Westgate Mall attack. We therefore resolve to take a motion to Parliament to amend the Commission of Inquiry Act that currently makes it the prerogative of the President to set up one. We need an inquiry in Westgate, poaching, admissions to Form 1, Taxi NSSF project, among others.
Meanwhile, ODM, a member of the Code Coalition, which will be holding elections later this month, has resolved to retain its leadership positions in the National Assembly.
Just raise your hand. This followed a firm assurance by the three leaders that they will do more and be more effective in their duties. Code principals Right Honorable Raila Odinga, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, and Senator Moses Wetangula will further hold meetings with the leadership in the Assembly to replenish our expectations.
This means MPs Francis Nyenze will remain minority leader, Jakoyo Midiwo will retain his seat as deputy minority leader, while Gideon Mungaro and Chris Wamalwa will retain their positions as chief whip and deputy chief whip respectively.
Libyans in Tripoli and Benghazi yesterday celebrated the third anniversary of the uprising that saw the end of Muammar Gaddafi's regime. The celebrations were marked by dancing in car-filled streets and letting fireworks off into the sky.
A riot in Benghazi on February 15, 2011 was triggered by the arrest of human rights activist Fedi Tabel, who had been working to free Libya's political prisoners. Anti-government protests carried on in the eastern city with a day of rage calling on February 17th, which eventually led to the downfall and death of Gaddafi, who had led Libya since a coup that ousted King Idris in 1969. Libyans now celebrate the anniversary as a rebirth of the country, with thousands seen in the streets of the capital Tripoli raising the flags so high and children with their faces painted.
We celebrate this great moment, the moment that we were forbidden from. I celebrate because I'm raising my country's flag in my country, where I am happy. Whereas before I was forced to raise the flag, now, as a citizen, I buy the flag with my own money and celebrate it myself, and I'm happy.
Karima bin Hamid carried a picture of her husband who was killed in the revolution.
I feel very proud. I want my children to celebrate every February 17th and be happy on the day in which we eliminated the tyrant who destroyed our country and killed our children. I swear the best boys in Libya died in the revolution, including my husband.
After the day of rage on February 17, 2011, pro-government rallies were held in Tripoli as Gaddafi vowed to clamp down on the protests. A bloody civil war raged for months, with the United Nations Security Council imposing a no-fly zone to the country. Libya will elect an assembly on February the 20th to draft a constitution intended to advance transition to democracy and break political stalemate more than 2 years after the NATO-backed uprising toppled Gaddafi.
The National Union of Somali Journalists and various UN agencies held the first Somali Media Awards in Mogadishu on Monday, awarding prizes to Somali's top journalists who risk their lives reporting in dangerous conditions.
Somalia has been one of the world's most dangerous places for journalists to work. More than 40 journalists have been assassinated for their work-related attacks in the past 9 years. The National Union of Somali Journalists has organized awards to celebrate the good work they have done, shedding light on development and humanitarian issues in the country.
It's worth mentioning that 2012 was the deadliest year for Somali journalists as 18 journalists were killed. Last year, 2013, at least 7 journalists were killed. 6 of them were assassinated in Mogadishu. Indeed, this shows that Somalia is the most dangerous place for journalists to work in.
The National Union of Somali Journalists say the awards will motivate the journalists to work in harsh conditions.
As Somali journalists are used to facing more difficulties, it's also important that the National Union of Somali Journalists, with the help of UN agencies such as UNDP, UNESCO and UNFPA, managed to give awards to Somali journalists in 2013 contest for the first time. The contest was to encourage Somali journalists.
Mohammed Din Bari Haji, who owns a radio station, was arrested last week for taking photos of a bomb blast that targeted Ahmed Omar Muden, the deputy security commander of the Lower Shabelle region, injuring him seriously.
On 9th February, a car bomb took place at Makkah Al-Mukarramah Street, wounding a deputy security commander of the Lower Shabelle region. I was one of the journalists who reached the bomb site as soon as it happened. I took some pictures and there were journalists from local and international media. I broadcast the blast story and that is why they arrested me.
According to Journalists Without Borders, Somalia is the second most dangerous place for journalists in the world after Syria.
South Sudanese rebels attacked the capital of oil-producing Upper Nile State, the first fighting in a provincial capital since rebels and the government signed a ceasefire in January. Rebel forces could not immediately be reached for comment, but President Salva Kiir's government and rebels loyal to former Vice President Riek Machar have both accused each other of violating the ceasefire deal signed in Ethiopia on January the 23rd.
Spokesperson for the Upper Nile administration, Philip Jibe, said fighting is continuing, but government forces are still in control of Malakal. A UN official said he had received reports of fighting in Malakal but could not confirm them. The town fell into rebel hands after fighting first broke out in mid-December before government forces recaptured it last month. The clashes will fuel concerns over the security of South Sudan's northern oil fields, an economic lifeline for the world's newest state, and raise pressure on both camps to revive stalled peace talks in neighboring Ethiopia. It was not immediately clear which rebel faction had attacked Malakal, a dusty market town on the banks of the White Nile. Yesterday, South Sudan's army denied using cluster bombs in its fight with rebels, shrugging off a UN report that fragments of the widely banned explosives had been found. A UN landmine clearing team reported finding remnants of cluster bombs along a road from the capital Juba to Bol in Jonglei State in the north last week. The explosives dropped by air or fired by artillery scatter hundreds of bomblets across a wide area and can kill and maim civilians long after conflicts end.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has expelled 3 U.S. diplomats in retaliation for its alleged support of anti-government protesters. Maduro ordered the expulsion on the same day that opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez called for a mass rally on Tuesday and challenged the government to arrest him at the event. Security forces raided the headquarters of an opposition party accused of fostering nearly a week of violent protests. Here is more on that story.
A raid on the headquarters of Venezuela's opposition party, Popular Will, with men caught on video waving guns and trying to break down a door. This video cannot be independently verified by Reuters, but party officials say the armed men are military intelligence officers who tried to forcibly remove several activists. A lawmaker from the party speaks out.
This is a disregard for human rights. It is a disregard for all civil commissions, military institutions searching the offices of a political party.
Meanwhile, police fire tear gas at student protesters outside the opposition party's office. An arrest warrant is out for Popular Will founder Leopold Lopez, the main instigator of anti-government protests that have swept Venezuela, at times proving deadly.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Bulletin on Africa this morning. Join us shortly as we take a look at the leading stories both on social media and in business with Cherotich Kene.